interest. But you have to leave an indelible impression that can be read by future generations to leave a blueprint or a pattern to put the puzzle pieces together on how to recover from the condition, right? So the 5%ers teach that 85% of the people blind, deaf, and dumb and don't know what's going on. And 10% of the people know what's going on and they're not doing nothing about it. But there's 5% of the people that know what's going on that's working to raise the other 85% to awareness to overcome the tyranny of the 1% who was extracted from the 10%. So the 1%ers is what they call the people that's ruling the world as elites. Has a system at play, and if we figure out their system, we can reverse engineer the society in order to find out how to get back to our rights and our ability to reclaim the land based on our birthright to the land at the close of the age. Most of us don't know that it's a universal law that we are obligated by universal law, the organics of the world, at the close of every age, no matter what's going on, to shut it all down. Anything that is destructive to the ends of the collective is dispensed with, and anything found to be a benefit is used as a bridge to the next coming age. So now we leave in the age of Pisces, the water age of believing, to the air age of Aquarius. But remember, the Aquarian man carries a pitcher of water that's being spilled. Water is the symbol for spirit. So what it's telling you is we going from spiritually believing stuff with no information to support why we believe it to the mental aspect of spiritually knowing exactly what we see in the Aquarian age. So earlier I was saying about we had to be able to see the signs significantly enough in order to know when to take to make our move. Now, I came out to do this work when I came home from prison back in 2008. But everybody I went to shut the door in my face. They all said that I ain't have no degrees, I ain't had no alphabets behind my name, therefore I wasn't qualified, right? But not until Farrakhan gave a speech and Khalid Muhammad left and he said, "You think I didn't need a brilliant mind like Khalid Muhammad?" Well, Khalid, my man. I'm just like that motherfucker, but I think a little deeper, right? Everything he be saying, I feel that way, but it's one problem. He was trying to go against the rules. He was trying to fight the enemy in the physical when it's a spiritual war taking place, right? You can't fight a physical war that's spiritual. You have to fight the spiritual side and let the effects manifest in the physical arena. In this case, we use universal law weaponized to fight tyranny and oppression around the world. And after you go through the dark night of the soul, you begin to see the pattern in which universal laws apply. And this is where me learning the functions, structure, and intricacies of civics and the changing of rulership in past historical contexts in both hostile situations such as a coup d'etat to more amicable transformations such as a king seceding from the throne and another king ascending in his place. There is a civics solution to the problem. Well, the first time I became aware that there was a civics solution to the problem is when Noble Drew Ali said that I started a civics organization. The contradiction that made me raise an eyebrow is ask why are they patterning it now as if it's a religion, right? So that took me back to Albert Pike's The Morals and the Dogma. Because under the civics, there's no dogma involved because you unraveling the legalese. But if you can get them to chase the dogma, they won't really take the civics serious enough in order to exercise a superior jurisdiction to overthrow the imposters on the land, because the only way you can do it is to go back to your original system. Your original system is a matriarchal system based off the oral decree of the chieftains in agreement across the land, that which benefits the most amount of people from each of the clans.
Wouldn't there be necessity really to go back to the original system? In doing that, wouldn't there be a necessity of shedding ourselves, or divorcing ourselves of all the religious attachments, the dogma that we've taken on to be, Christians, and to be, this
Well,
denomination, that, I mean, from a standpoint of when we realize that those things were actually put in place to put us under subjection.
right.
So
So the
would we have to
religious,
shed those in order to get back to the original?
um, at this point of the discovery process for the collective, they can use whatever path of spiritual development they choose to, as long as they don't turn a blind eye to the other paths, right? And this is where the polarization comes out, as Noble Drew Ali called it, as a religious controversy. We are remember we are allelopathic, and we are naturopathic first, right? That means that all things have to go back to a stasis, which is the state of balance, right? So when you abruptly tell somebody who's been in the church for 75 years, hey, drop that some garbage. The shock to their system could cause a healing crisis to a significant degree to make them lose their mind. If you go back to Elijah Muhammad, he said if you wake them up too soon, you're driving crazy. And that's why he used to keep saying, make it plain enough for a baby to understand it,
So
right?
what are we trying to get folks that are steeped in any level of dogma to understand? From what my where I come from, having been a pastor for 10 years,
Hmm.
and seeing the good and the ugly. You see it all, and in between.
Okay, so
But
let's
yeah,
use.
I mean, I'm saying indoctrination, and like you mentioned earlier, 12-step program, and the various all of these things were things that affects the mind of people. Fear, reverence, so that you don't think outside the box. Having to reverence something that is unseen while ignoring the obvious inside of yourself. All of those things to me have been designed to not allow us to get back to the natural. I mean, you're saying, I know, don't, and I do know what you mean about not waking up folks too soon. I mean, or not all of a sudden. Although for my personal awakening, it hit me like a ton of bricks when I was in a service, and all of a sudden I was snatched out of it in an out of body experience. And the next day, I'm up in the pulpit preaching my swan song, because right after that, I'm everybody's going, because now I'm like you say, crazy. They say about you, I was crazy. But for me, maybe that was the way it had to happen. And but for the masses, when you to get critical mass, and nothing really happens, I don't think, until you get enough minds thinking the same. So in your going through, I want to go back to your dark night of the soul before you get too forward, because you kind of skipped over. You said, when I came out of prison in 2008. But what about those years prior to 2008? How about the time when you were, you ended up apparently veering from what Big Mama was saying, because you were running up, maybe you were running from your calling. But in that captured, if you will, situation, what happened to you there? What were you doing during those times?
So when I first got caught up and locked up, I remember the voice sisters that I used to hear give words of wisdom. I was in Cook County Jail. I was in there. I was like on my second or third day in there, and a bald head guy named Hawk came with a sister. I can't remember her name, and they were actually Christians, but she wasn't coming with the dogma. She was coming with raw common sense. And one of the things she said was that stuck with me. And she said, some of y'all finna get a lot of time. She said, but don't worry about that. You can't stop that. You can't lock yourself in. There is no escape, even if you want to. She said, but the best thing that you can do is don't let them take the time from you. Use the time. Learn everything you can while you in there. You don't need no degree, but get your PhD. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, that makes so much sense. So this, if I apply this to my prison term, if I get time out of this, and I apply what she's saying, when I get out of prison, I can have the knowledge of a professor at a university in the amount of time that I'm about to get, that I don't know I'm about to get this much time, right?
Hmm.
And so in the end, they gave me 18 to 50 years in prison, right? And during my Cook County stint, well, that was like a year and a half, I end up coming across. I just started realizing that all of the um, most potent members of our community, the organic indigenous people, was in these cages, right? And I got introduced by different ones, by different people. Like the leader of the Maniac Disciples, name is Ferg. I met my cousin introduced me to him on our way to court, right? Then in the bullpen, it was some BGs, black, what they call black gangsters, that was high ranking, and he introduced me to them, right? I had a vice lord introduce me to Willie Lord, and it was kind of odd to me when he done that because um, we in we walking through the day room, he calling me over there where his chief at to introduce me to his chief. But he told me beforehand, he said, man, I want to introduce you to Willie Lord, right? And I was like, okay. And because we was watching him on the news get arrested. And when he got in there, he was downstairs in a cell block called ABO in Division 1. So he came up on a visit. They brought him up to A1 where I was at. And so Lil J, who was a 4-star elite vice lord, he said, come here, man, I want you to meet somebody. And he walked over, he said, stay right here. So I'm standing on the other side of the day room, and he went and said a couple words to Willie Lord, and he waved me over there. He said, hey Lord, I want you to meet him, man. And he told me who I was, his name Rod. And back then I was studying with a Nation of Islam guy named Everett X, who was teaching me about now this is all within the first year of being locked up. But he was teaching me Nation of Islam doctrine, and they was calling me Rod X, right? But they was calling me that like a nickname because I hang out with the Nation of Islam guy all the time. But they all knew that I was under the GD banner. And so when he introduced me to Willie Lord, the whole day room stopped talking and they looking. And what he said caught my attention. He said, hey Lord, this one right here, this the one. I don't know what that shit means. Right? And he shook my hand and he says, it's good to meet you, young brother. He said, stay on the straight and narrow. That's all he said. He didn't give me no conversation. We didn't go into nothing. We just greeted each other, but he told me to stay on the straight and narrow. I know what that means from church, and I know what that means from Everett, and we discussed it. Right, staying on the straight and narrow mean walk straight. Right, don't let these people push you off your path.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Everett X had to leave, he went upstate, and the last thing I told him, I was like, "Man, this is a big deal. I don't know if I could do it." He looked at me, and I could see the Elijah Muhammad in his face when he started smiling. He said, "Oh, you got this." And then he recited the story of Hiram Abiff, and he said, "You're gonna need that later." And then I heard Farrakhan go over the story of Hiram Abiff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when I started studying the story after I got out of prison, I started seeing certain events unfolding that was unnerving to me because this was starting to tell me there's a Masonic connection to my birthright. So now I have to study the lodges deeper than I already have because I was going through a secret society investigation while I was studying with the Nuwabians in prison. So we was going through, well, I was going through each secret society reading entire text on them. Where Malachi had a book out called Secret Societies Unmasked, where he got a little part about all of them. So I started to get books from their perspective about their doctrine, right? But it became more enhanced when I came home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And um, so during the course of these years, normally my temperament, I would have been, I would what they call ready to ride. I was always ready to ride, but it had to be one condition: I got to be right. The only reason why I feel like that is because my mama used to tell me when I was little that don't start nothing and you're gonna always win it. You got to always be in the right. So I don't start nothing, but I sure finish it. I don't got no problem finishing it. And I remember my father saying that a man always moves straight. He said, "Man, don't do all that funny, swervy, shifty stuff." That's not how he was talking to his friends in our garage. So this was one of my lessons on being a man from my father that really impacted my life because I always came at people straight. And mama said, respect those who respect you. But you got to give respect to get respect. That means if I'm at your house, in order for me to get respect at your house, I got to first give you respect. I got to come in peace in order to receive peace and the blessing up on arrival. So everywhere I went, I held that in the forefront of my mind. And everybody that I met them from a level of respect, and it was returned. And this is why, as a GD, I'm over in Motown on 50th in May, living in the complex in the All Stone neighborhood. The only folks is on 50th place, right? So I gave them their respect because that's their land. I already know to honor them on their land and give them their due respect. And they drew an attachment to me from being respectable and being respectful of their place. So I ran into a couple of confrontations with some of the Stones, but it was always resolved in the manner of respect. So I didn't ever have a problem with Stones and Vice Lords being Stones and Vice Lords. I didn't never see them as enemies because I knew we had the same enemies. So I didn't know how to categorize what I'm looking at, but I know that whoever it is that's infiltrating Stones and Vice Lords is the same people infiltrating the GDs. I understand the literature of the GDs. And I understand the literature that I was given by Vice Lords. And I understand the literature that I was given orally by Stones and Crips and Bloods. And I'm seeing a pattern that this is the behavior that's ancient on the land. If this behavior is ancient on the land, I got to see it somewhere else. Here, lo and behold, it emerges. It's the structure of the Nation of Islam. It's the structure of the 5% nation. It's the structure of Yahweh ben Yahweh's Hebrew Israelites. It's a repeating pattern. It's a tribal structure from the top to the bottom. How we used to perform in the old ways where we was in all parts of the land, but we never had conflicts with people on their portion of the land. Because we understood that who we are is predicated up on honoring those in respect when you in their house. You can't come in somebody's house and just superimpose your will. So whoever the imposter is the ones who came in our house and is doing what we don't normally do.
Makes sense.
So when I start tracing it back, I end up with the 32-degree Scottish Rite, Morals and Dogma, George Washington, Albert Pike, um, um, the guy that started the Illuminati, Adam Weishaupt.
Mm.
Three different personas of the same person. But most people can't see the pattern. I couldn't see the pattern originally until I was studying forensic profiling and the mechanics of it. And I wanted to do a forensic profile on the biblical God character, which turned out horrible, by the way. Turned out horrible. Turns out that he's a sociopathic narcissist, early bedwetter who has mama issues and daddy issues and don't know his own identity and sexuality, who feels that he should be held in superiority to other people just because who he is, where other people become less than him. This biblical God character can't be no God. He got to be some kind of mortal masquerading as a God through written literature because that's not the characteristics of the God form. So that came from a Q&A that I had in Saginaw Correctional Facility with some University of Michigan psychologists who came to do a lecture at the prison. And during the course of the lecture, I had asked them, had anybody done a psychological evaluation of the biblical God character because I couldn't find it. And they assured me that as far as they knew, one of them had like 35 years in psychiatry and psychology. One was a psychologist for over 45 years. The other one was a psychiatrist for over 40 years. And none of them had heard of anybody having the audacity to do a psychological profile in the since it became known on this character from the Bible.
Now, with that, let me just interject my little bit of my knowledge from what I learned versus what I was taught versus what I learned afterwards with in awakening process. We see God in the Bible somewhat as schizophrenic and bipolar and can't make up his mind about his love or hatred for his creation, when in fact we're not talking about one being, we're talking about more than one. We're talking
Hmm.
about at least two majors and then minor
But
characters
okay,
who
so
will
that
come
goes
in with
back
it.
to what that's the schizophrenic tendencies and the sociopathic personality disorder. Bobby E. Wright wrote a book called The Psychopathic Racial Personality. That's the God character summed up in under 200 pages.
But if he is making this so-called God into one being with all of these personalities, I tend to disagree. I see multiple beings
Right, because you're
competing
looking at it for what the
competing.
story you're looking at
Yeah,
it for what the story is saying in its original language.
right, right.
I'm looking at the God that they given the people
In the Bible.
in the they saying it's the God of the Bible.
The so-called Bible. Well, I mean, they created the Bible anyway, so
Right.
it is the God
But
of their
even
Bible.
that,
They
look,
created the Bible.
right. But even that, the character, right? We know
Hmm.
that the character comes from a series of gods merged into one person. Well, we call it a condensed God formula. They take all of the guys, give them one name as one person, and you change those names in the translation, and the layman will never know.
Right.
But the biblical seminarians know they lying to the people, and in order to get they preaching certification, they just go along with the lie.
That's what we do.
Go along to get along. So if you continuously go along with the lie, you can't liberate nobody or free nobody mind because you live in a lie.
But I'm gonna say this, Rod, just like I've said when the times when Grand Sheik has made this like sort of like
City in California flood should raise your eyes because the people in California, they don't. It's too dry out there to have
Yeah,
flood like
that's
that.
right. That's right. It's too the way the ground. Then it's mountains. A lot of parts. When you start going more west,
So
then east.
now we talking about Atlantis underwater.
Okay.
All right, now this is an article where the drowned guys live. Believe it or not, but this is what modern day Atlantis looks like. Right? Lost beneath the waves, the depths of the oceans are lined with sunken cities, flooded crypts, drowned forests and structures. While some are completely submerged, others are partially waterlogged. These drowned cities hold myths and secrets of the deep. Here's a glimpse of the sunken world lost to watery wreckage. Now, what this is talking about, they got actual whole cities that they found under the oceans, right? Like if you look up Bimini Road, let's go look it up just so we got time.
Hey, we gotta look up that word maroon too.
Yeah, we're gonna come back to it because that's part of the Gullas. The Gullas is they called them Maroons when they was they chased them out. This is a group of islands off of the Carolinas, and I'll show it to you. But right now we on what I tell you put in there?
Shit, I went blank too. Shit. Start with a P.
We was talking about Bimini Road. Bimini Road.
Bini.
No, Bimini. Bimini Road.
Oh yeah, Bimini Road. Got it right here. Oh yeah, you on something here, bro? Let me say this in your folder.
Yeah, so when they telling you Atlantis sank, this is what they talking about.
All right, let's go. Let's do it. You want this
you see
map
that
right
lion
here?
underwater statue?
Yeah, I got it right here. I got it.
You see the diagram? Get the diagram too, so they can see the layout.
I got it. Now you already know. I got it. You already know. That's a good layout right there because you got this right. I ain't never heard of this. This is another part to my Atlantis tape. Let me get this like a Ishtar it look like Hathor.
Now this over here, right?
Yeah.
Now the next one is we're gonna pull it up just so we can have the picture so we can just go through the pictures real quick. The other one is Japanese underwater city of giants. Giant city. They got stairs where one step is like 13 feet high.
Let's see what we get. All right, here we go right here.
Mm-hmm. This is on the other side of the world from what you just seen.
The mirror flip.
Bimini Road is down near Cuba.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. It's somewhere down there. This is in the Pacific.
Can it be a 3 mirror flip? So where it's three
Oh yeah, we ain't done.
Okay.
Remember I told you that there was that they rerouted the Nile to fill in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, you told me that, yeah.
Watch this. Underwater Alexandria, Mediterranean.
Oh yeah, you going somewhere with this one.
They believe that they discovered Cleopatra's tomb down there recently in the last couple of months.
See, underwater Alexandria, right?
Yep.
All right. Let's see.
Did you put in Mediterranean?
Oh no. Hold up, I gotta put that in there. It's right here, supposed to be it right here, right? Look,
See what that right under
different
that.
statues. Oh shit, son.
There you go. Now you own it. Just click on there and you can see the pictures under that to stay with the same topic.
Okay, all right.
Because all of them, that's dealing with the same underwater city.
Get the hell out of here. Why they ain't telling niggas about that, bro? Look at this. This is all the Egyptian shit, man.
Yeah, that's in the Mediterranean, right off northern Egypt.
Oh yeah, it's our land anyway. We already know. I got a couple already, man. On that one.
Yeah, we don't need all of them.
Okay, what else you got?
Okay, it's a city in the Atlantic. No, we ain't gonna worry about that. Let's just go over these photos and look at the underwater, the ancient civilizations that passed.
Hey, what about that that one where they got the people chained together in the circle? You saw that one?
Yeah, that's something else. I was gonna pull that up, but I ain't gonna pull that up.
Okay, all right. This is fire right here, bro.
This is ancient shit.
It's like limestone, man. It's like fucking limestone.
It's made out of everything else that Hollywood called Egypt is made out of. We gonna get into all that in 1 minute. Okay, let's go next picture. We just looking at the pictures we just pulled. This is underwater Mediterranean.
Why didn't it go through? Oh, okay. All right. Let me go back. Okay. It's that road right here.
Bimini Road.
Yeah.
Right. This is Bimini Road. It's an underwater roadway. Let's go to Google and get the headlines of it so they can see what it's talking about.
Bimini Road, sometimes called Bimini Wall, is a underwater rock formation near North Bimini Island